All right, let's try round two of this one. Boy, I am sorry. I listened back to that audio, folks, and even Mini GM's laughing. The audio was horrible on GM Tips 184, so let me reopen my book. We're going to redo this again. Hi, yi, yi. I'm so sorry, Shanna. I'm so sorry, Unihulkstress. So sorry, Akeisha. So sorry to all the rest, Chaotic Anarchy, and all the other folks who didn't get to hear your mentions on here. So I was going through different characters and characteristics. So let's try this again. GM Tips 184, round two. And we'll make sure I listen to it this time before I post it up. Giving initiative, and basically it's engaging shy players. This is part of the Kobold Guide to Game Mastering. This chapter was done by the great Shanna Germain. Okay. Now I want to give one shout out before I get into this. Really got to say, Amanda Heyman Kuntz also did a great chapter on inclusiveness. I've talked about it before up on my videos. Get the book, go through it. Kobold Press does a wonderful job on this book. I didn't know if it was going to be worth it or not, and it really is worth it. So get the book. All right, going into giving initiative, and sorry, Shanna, I did this so well. Dadgummit, guys, if you could have heard it on my side, you would have gone, yes, round two. Let's hope it's even better than round one. All right, so it says, when I was in high school, I attended a performance of aerial dance. Pretty cool, huh? Shanna says, I was excited about the event and I begged someone to trade seats with me so I could sit next to the aisle and lean over to see the stage without the adult sized heads in front of me. Smart kid. Way to go, Shanna. That's a pretty smart and inventive way of doing things. About 3 minutes into the performance, though, I discovered something out of my worst teenage nightmares. Can you guess what that is, guys? You will. um, the dancers were walking up the aisles, pulling members up onto stage. And she goes on to say, and I'm not going to read all of it because I don't want to give away the whole book, but the basic gist was her anxiety levels were at an ultimate high because of the fear that she was going to have the spotlight shined onto her and she was going to get pulled out to the stage where the dancers were going to have her participate. And so she didn't get to enjoy the experience. Sound familiar? We've all had those moments, whether it's public speaking, whether it's acting. Oh, God, I did Fiddler on the Roof. So that was in high school. You want to talk about overcoming myself? Oh, boy. And I was um, I was the constable of the Russian village. So I got to wear the boots, the dark makeup, the hair darkened, and everything. And boy, I didn't have many lines, but I was anxious on the ones I did have, especially working with Tevya on that side of things. Gives you a little bit of insight back into my geek days. All right. So one of the things that Shanna really hits on, and I really appreciate, and I agree with it too as a GM, is the greatest fear of some players is having that spotlight shine onto them in a session and it freaking them out to the point of where the whole experience and the whole session just was a bad session. Okay. So, one of the things that I was going to hit on is some of the advice given. Now, basically, what do you do? I mean, we work with different types of players, and it is a GM's job to work with different types and personalities of players to make their experience a wonderful experience. And let's just throw in DMs, because DMs gets clued a lot more to Dungeons and Dragons, and I know a lot of our Dungeons and Dragoners love our titles. We love the DM because it was always clued into Dungeons and Dragons. GM more universal for every other system we work with. Um, but it is our job to do that, whether we're a young GM, DM, or whether we are a older DM, GM. It is part of us in our role. Now, I'm not going to get into political correct and all that thing. I'm not a huge believer of political correct because I think political correct is, in my opinion, a catch-all, and it just doesn't cover really the issues that need dealt with. So, you got to find out about the player when they come in. Are they really shy? Or is it something else that's going on that's causing them to be hesitant or quiet or reserved or just not as engaged into the game? And so, first of all, I think you've got to identify what type of players do you have sitting at your table. Again, your gregarious ones, your extroverts, they tend to overshadow some of the more quieter, thoughtful players. Introverts versus extroverts. The extroverts are always charged up, being the center of attention. As you can tell, that's me. I love being the center. But I've learned that it's not my job as a GM to be the center of focal attention. I want to give lots of time to my players, and you'll hear this in my videos. I go quiet a lot of times. Sometimes I'll poke a joke in or something, but I really do, unless it's something the players are missing. I let them have the floor. But some players, not very comfortable with the floor and the spotlight. But you got to find out, is that the reason? So a suggestion Shanna has is get with the player and find out what's really happening. And I suggest doing that either well before a session or after a session, when a lot of your players have moved on. Because what's going to happen is you're going to be working with those players, and what you don't want to do is you don't want to embarrass the player by engaging with them. One thing I would say to you, GM again, gotta love her. She loves her music and she likes it big on the screen. What I will say is this. Simple questions. You don't have to interrogate them. Please don't make it seem like an interrogation session. So let me give you for example. After the session, pull them aside. Hey, Julie. Or hey, Akeisha. Or hey, Unihokstress. Or hey, Chaotic Anarchy. Or hey, Michael Mordor. Or hey, Shay. Or hey, whoever. Yeah, you guys are going to love me using all of you guys. Or hey, Leviathan. And that's not his real name, but DM Leviathan. Or hey, Umemi Star. Let's talk for a minute. And what you want to say is something like this: hey, so and so, I noticed you're kind of a little bit quiet today. Is everything going okay? I just wanted to check. I want to make sure you had a good session. I want to make sure that I geared everything enough towards your character that you felt like you were part of things. Is there something else going on that I'm not seeing there, or maybe something I need to do different? And let them talk and just zip. Best rule I've had is once you ask the question, zip it and listen. Listen for what is there. They may not say a lot, but they'll tell you what's going on. Sometimes you have to ask some little extra questions. Don't make them long. Don't make them drawn out. Sometimes it's just good to say, okay, so what you're telling me is, and what I'm hearing is this, and regurgitate back what they said, the high points. People like to know that you are listening to them. Look them in the eyes. Or if it bothers them, look meaningfully in their direction, okay? You don't want to make them feel like they're under an interrogation spotlight. You just want to find out what's going on. Some things Shanna says. The only way to know what's going on with a player is to ask them, preferably in a private moment. See, Shanna, I do read your stuff. The great Shanna Germain, I like her, and I do read her stuff. And so what I do is try to say back up here a lot of what she says. Preferably in a private moment so that they have the space and safety. And I agree with that. The safety. They need to be honest with their answer. Sometimes being in a group with a lot of people don't feel safe with that. They feel exposed. Put yourself in their shoes. What are they feeling? You might learn a lot about why they game, they enjoy it, and what is hard for them. And you might learn that they're going through a divorce, been there and done that twice, personal struggles with depression, anxiety, maybe not feeling well, maybe they lost a loved one, maybe they had a bad day at work, maybe they lost their job this last week. One of my players had his house broken into, his apartment, and they took his major things like his laptop and stuff. And I was like, oh man, I am so sorry. That empathy goes a long way to them feeling safe in that environment. Then the next session, they're more out of themselves. Perfect example. Unihokstress and or Shrieky on Twitter, and Akeisha from Twitter. Both on my Twitter things if you want to know, under Rick M. the GM. Got to know them a little bit. Unihokstress had related some things going on with her about the gaming community and how things are going up in Canada. that really helped me to understand, and we got to talking more, and it's really cool. I feel like a friendship budding there, and I really enjoy talking with her. She's a lot of fun, very insightful, very welcoming, but you would not have maybe gotten that from the first conversations with her had you not asked the questions. Keisha, the same thing. Keisha, great gamer, invited her actually into one of my one-shot sessions. Now, she preferred not to be up on the video. She wanted to type and things like that. So I got her a system with Roll20 where she could type in and go along. We lost contact with her a few times, unfortunately, because of the internet. She felt bad, but she had a blast. And the more I talked with her afterwards, then we talked about her DMing and her gaming, and I got to know her more. And the thing that I found out was there were some things that kept her more reserved. Not going to share them out here because it's not my business to. When people confide in me, I keep it confided. And that's the other thing I'd say as a GM. Don't air the laundry, okay? Let them feel like they can confide in you and you're trustworthy because you are and you want to be. And so now Akeisha's told me she has had a better experience with the community and come so much more out of herself because of our conversations. And that touches me because I really think the world of Akeisha. If you haven't added Unihulkstress, Akeisha, Umemi Star, DM Leviathan, that Park Sky, that Park Scow, a whole bunch of others. Like, Terminally Nerdy, Elven Tower, Death by Mage. These are all great gamers that I've gotten to know over the time. And as part of what she was saying here, Shanna, get to know your people, whether you're running a game with them or just getting to know them. Be that welcoming conduit that allows them to be themselves and feel like they can be out of themselves. So is the player shy? Is it an actual problem? If it turns out that your player is shy, in this case, then the next thing is to consider whether that's an actual problem. Most importantly, is it an issue for the player themselves? If the player's enjoying themselves and doesn't want more spotlight or interaction than they're already getting, it isn't a problem and everything is resolved. So don't make it a big deal. If it turns out the shy player actively does want to be more involved but nervous about taking that first step, help them out. Mr. and Miss GM and DM, please. We can be such a great conduit to the game. And sometimes we ourselves are the insecure and shy one. Okay? So that means us identifying our own things and getting beyond that ourselves. And having that environment and relating that makes a big difference. If they're comfortable being quiet, don't shine the spotlight. Once in a while, ask them their opinion. So maybe, hey, Melissa, I just wanted to see. I mean, what do you think about all this going on at this point? What do you think about all this situation unfolding in the way it is? And just leave it go. Let them put in their 2 cents and be done. Perfect example. Max, Max, one of my good friends. I'm not going to give his last name on here. Longtime player. In the beginning, outside of the game, not shy, but in the game, very shy because he didn't know the rules real well. And as time has gone on, Max has come out of himself. And he made a comment the other day to Scott. And you guys have heard a lot about Scott. Scott, you know, I love you, man. I do. He's a super guy that I love gaming with. And unfortunately, he's going to be on hiatus for a while with Brian because both of them have life come in. So, last 2 sessions. He's trying to get a lot done. He's changed a lot. And he really is much more of a thoughtful player than he was. He was much more the metagamer. He's gotten different about that a little bit. The setup yesterday was Remily, the NPC, grabs a hold of this goat. That's a lantern goat that has the soul of Victor Miroslav, the scientist. They're trying to get him. If you watch the session, I'm going to post up, you'll see it. So she's riding the goat. This is a tactic her. She's like, okay, I'm a pixie. I can get the goat through the portal, the dimension door when it comes up. Everybody else seeing this unwind going, great, we can get out of here. Scott's like, who should I hit? So his Kal-El, the war priest, with his Falcata looking around, thinks about the guy who's on the horse that they're fighting, the Dullahan. Thinks about the brothers 3, the 2 of them that are there, the 2 Nosferatu. Goes for the goat because he's like, then I can get the lantern. So he goes, and Mac's like, no, Remily is riding the goat. Don't do this. So does Josh. The Fey touched, saying the same thing. Don't do this. Scott hits criticals. Says from nape to chin. From brow to chin. Ruling as a GM, but I said, you hit Remily. Well, no, I didn't. She's right in the back. I said, Scott, you're wielding a falcata, and you split the goat open from front to back. They kill the goat. Does 129 points of damage. Damages the goat. Well, no, it doesn't kill it. Wounds it severely. Remily is on there. Does 121 because, again, his good powered hitting thing doesn't affect her because she's good. Out of her 131 hit points. I say all that to say, Max told him. Max spoke up. Generally a quiet player. This round, not so quiet. Says profound things when he opens his mouth. Sometimes humorous, but mostly profound things with Painvin. Sometimes a little bit character in character. Great role play. Warned him. He didn't listen. The party gave Scott a hard time for not listening to the normally quiet player who gave the profound advice that really was profound advice. So that said, when they want to speak up, give them that voice and let them have that voice. Ask them what they think would help. Ask the shy player. Hey, you know, shy players have probably been shy for most of their lives. So ask them. The answer may be simply as nothing. Or, you know, I just wish I could do things and not be dragged kicking and screaming in the spotlight. I could just like to be able to chime in once in a while when it makes sense or when I feel comfortable. Then give them that comfortability. Create room for everyone's voice. Sometimes you got to create room. Sometimes your most vocal players, i.e. in this case, Joseph, Scott, and a little bit, you know, Paul, like to be very verbose. Make room for the Maxes of the world and the Joshes to be able to say their voice, or the Bryans of the world, or the Cliff when Cliff was playing with us. Give them their voice. Let them have it. Let them have their say at the level you want. And by promoting this, you know, and she says, this is true more for shy players, of course. You as a GM have the responsibility of helping them set the rules and expectations. These rules should include making a safe, non-judgmental space where when they do chime in, they don't get laughed at or made fun of. Making a group effort, so sometimes having the two conduits, which in my case is Josh and Paul. Even though Josh is more quiet, they tend to be the conduits, and he's more sensitive to other players' needs. Reward them when they come out. When they come out and do something and say something profound like with Max, in fact, I need to do that. I'm going to make a note. I need to give Max extra experience points because he knew better. He tried to save Remily. They didn't listen. And Remily got boom. Could be XP, could be a little pat on the back and an attaboy, which I did reward him with that. It could be maybe a boom for the next time, or a bane. Maybe his god Mig will do something for him. He's usually very quiet about these things as an Elder Fae. But maybe he'll do something special for him. Enlist other players. I enlist Josh and Paul a lot. Now I'm going to be doing much more with Paul's son, who's on there as well. And that's Joseph. And Joseph has come in and been a great. It was kind of a little bit of a anxiety for me, but he's done really good. And he's come in and been a positive force. Using character traits. So say, you know the person's shy. And Shanna does a great job in saying this. You know the player's shy. Maybe their player character is too. Much more of a mute. Maybe they like to write things down. So instead of vocally doing it, have you guys ever seen, oh God, what was the one, was it? It was an anime where so you're a zombie. That's what it was. And the person who brought him back was the necromancer. Because her voice caused so much damage, she would write things. And so you had to look at her little written notes as she went along. She always had profound things to say. She just liked writing them. Maybe they do pictures and show pictures of what they're thinking. So you let them do the pictographs. Or in cases, maybe they're more of a note taker. So They don't say anything in session until you need something reiterated, and they come back and lay out what happened the last time, so you know. If it's a one shot, well, one shots are a little bit easier. She hits that, it's two. You have to be a lot more concise about it. But really, it's the same things we talked about. You just have to think of it more in the realm of a one shot. So I would make Akeisha. So Akeisha, because she didn't like to verbal, she liked to type. So I would say, "Hey, Akeisha, what do you think on that?" And she would type her things on there, and she put up her stuff. And she really loved doing that. She felt very comfortable in that environment. So she would have all kinds of fun ideas and things she'd throw up there, and things that would help Amanda DM Dystress, because DM Dystress, Amanda was much more outgoing. She was more verbose. So was Tiny GM. Tiny gets on there. She has a great time. So did their friend, Amanda's friend. Oh God, I'm blanking on your name, my friend, and I feel bad about that. So they were in the one shot, but they would start saying things and ask Akeisha her points of view, and she would type up and say them. So that was the cool part. She felt very comfortable doing that. Adapt your systems towards that. You know, there's a lot of great people. I don't treat Unihulkstress the same as I would treat Amanda, DM Dystress, or I would treat Akeisha, or I treat Tiny, or the Tiny GM, or I would treat Chaotic Anarchy. She and I had a great dynamic playing together, and we'd feed off of each other. Or Eggs, the Eggs. He had fun. He would sit in there, and we got to see him. And I loved his little vibe of, he had things off because his daughter was sleeping, but it was that whole dark room vibe. I kind of liked it. It was cool. So it gave it, for especially for a horror adventure, it gave it that fun. But even as players, we can help other players to be really their best. And that's the cool part about working together in this. And let's create environments. Shanna, thank you for some great comments. And Wolfgang, thanks for publishing her. You and the crew there, Wolfgang Bauer at Kobold Press. They do a great job on some of these books, and I really appreciate how they pay attention. Some people say it's politically correct. No, it's not what it is. It's meeting the needs of your players. There's a difference between PC and meeting the needs, okay? And please don't put the two together, because you really lose out on, as a GM, on those great tips that will help you out. Unfortunately, I got to show the last time this fully built thing from that my fiance did. I wish I could show you the mausoleum. I put it back up in here, and I really don't want to go off video and get it. That's the only missing thing. But hopefully, and thank you. And I want to give special shout out to one of the guys on YouTube who did me the justice of saying, "Rick, oh, that video thing." And the guy who did it, and hang on here, and I'm going to repost it up, is Dan Green and Lair of the Technolich. Thank you, Dan. I'm sorry I had to make you listen to Alvin and the Chipmunks. And thank you to Brian, big Brian Pearson, good friend of mine, great gamer. He always backs my stuff, as does Alex Agunas, and also, my buddy. I'm blanking on you, my friend. Not Alex, but Chris Vanderlyn, of course. I love Chris. Simon Peter Munoz. Sorry, Simon Peter. I'm so sorry. I back your stuff all the time, and I feel bad. So those are all my shout outs. Hope you guys have a great week. Thank you for supporting GM Tips. Please keep going and great ideas. And you might be seeing some joint GM tips where I'm starting to add other people. Ooh, what a concept. I start becoming like some of the others then. Thank you guys so much and have a great week of gaming and geekery.